Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Sirius Black is one of the most multifaceted characters in the Harry Potter universe. His character is far from ideal, as throughout the series he was impulsive, sometimes cruel, and reckless. However, despite all his flaws, Sirius proved that he was capable of great deeds for the sake of his loved ones and the fight against evil, which makes him one of the most vivid and beloved heroes. Today I want to share with you several reasons why Sirius Black can be considered the best character in the series. Enjoy the video. Number 1, he sacrificed his life to save Harry. One of the most remarkable moments in Sirius's life was his selflessness for Harry. When Harry and his friends got trapped, Sirius was the first to rush to their aid. He was the first to pass through the doorway and the first to reach Harry, risking his life for Harry's safety. In the movie adaptation of the scene, his heroism is even more vividly portrayed. He blocks spells aimed at Harry and fights the Death Eaters. Sirius didn't think about his own safety. What mattered to him was that Harry was safe. That moment when he sacrificed his life to protect his godson remains in memory as a symbol of love and selflessness. Number 2, he always checked on Harry. Sirius wasn't just a godfather to Harry. He was his friend and protector. In the Goblet of Fire, Harry went through a tough moment. He had a nightmare and felt pain in his scar. He immediately sent a letter to Sirius, and Sirius quickly responded by contacting him through the fireplace in the Gryffindor common room. This happened regularly. Whenever Harry was in danger or needed support, Sirius was always there, ready to help, no matter the risks. Number 3, he rebelled against his family and chose the side of good. Sirius Black is a prime example of how nature and upbringing can be overcome by personal choice. Born into a family of dark art supporters and raised in an atmosphere of fanaticism, Sirius realized that his family's beliefs were wrong. He didn't succumb to pressure and, despite everything he had to endure, chose the side of good. He became part of Gryffindor, a loyal friend and brother to those who were oppressed or rejected. His courage and determination to fight Voldemort and his followers became defining moments in his life. Number 4, he comforted Harry when he doubted his father. When Harry discovered that his father wasn't perfect and that Snape's memory of him wasn't so flawless, he was deeply upset. Instead of condemning him or getting angry, Sirius and Lupin listened to Harry, offering him comfort and support. This was an important moment for both Sirius and Lupin because they showed how much they cared for Harry and were willing to put his emotional well-being above all else. Number 5, he bought Harry a firebolt. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius, despite his main goal of seeking revenge on Peter Pettigrew, still found time to do something nice for Harry. One such act was buying Harry a new broomstick, the firebolt. This moment was not only an act of love and care, but also a real risk, as Sirius was a fugitive and hiding from the authorities. Nevertheless, he wasn't afraid because for him, Harry's happiness was what mattered most. Sirius Black was far from perfect, but his actions, love for his loved ones, and his desire to do the right thing, even in the most difficult situations, make him one of the most outstanding characters in the world of Harry Potter. Number 6, he survived Azkaban with his mind and loyalty intact. Sirius Black spent 12 long years in Azkaban, a prison known for breaking even the strongest of wizards. The Dementors, creatures capable of feeding on the happiest memories, would typically drive their prisoners insane. Yet despite the unimaginable horrors, Sirius managed to keep his sanity. The thought of his innocence and the memory of his friends, James and Lily, kept him going. "I am innocent, Harry," he would later tell his godson, his voice filled with both sorrow and hope. The belief that he needed to protect Harry was the only thing that allowed him to survive, both physically and mentally, in a place designed to destroy him. Sirius's ability to withstand the torment of Azkaban was a testament to his strength and loyalty. Even when the world thought him guilty of betraying his friends, he held on to the truth of what really happened. The memory of James, his friendship, and the love he had for Lily kept him grounded. When he finally escaped, it wasn't just for himself. It was to protect the legacy of his friends and ensure Harry's safety. His survival was not only a matter of enduring physical pain, it was about holding on to his honor and his loyalty to those he loved, proving how noble and unyielding his character truly was. Number 7. Became a true father figure to Harry. Although Harry had never known the love of his parents, Sirius became the father figure he desperately needed. From the moment they reunited in The Prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius stepped into the role of protector and mentor. He watched over Harry, cared for him, and made sure he knew that he was not alone. Even when he was on the run, hiding from the law, Sirius found ways to reach out to Harry. "You're not going back to the Dursleys," he told Harry, offering a glimpse of the family he had longed for. For the first time in Harry's life, he had someone who truly cared about him, someone who wasn't just protecting him out of obligation, but because they genuinely loved him. In moments of danger and uncertainty, Sirius was always there to offer a word of encouragement. When Harry faced challenges, Sirius was quick to reassure him. "You've got the best part of your father in you," he said, reminding Harry of his worth when he needed it most. Sirius's unwavering support helped Harry grow stronger, both emotionally and mentally. It was through Sirius's guidance that Harry learned to trust in himself and in the people who loved him. Despite the chaos and pain surrounding them, Sirius gave Harry a sense of belonging, helping him become the hero he would eventually be. Number 8. He stayed loyal to his friends until the end. Sirius Black's loyalty to his friends remained unwavering, even after the greatest betrayal of his life. Peter Pettigrew's treachery led to the fall of James and Lily Potter, and Sirius spent years in Azkaban because of it. Despite the devastation caused by his former friend's actions, Sirius never stopped believing in the power of true friendship. His bond with James Potter, Remus Lupin, and even Peter during their school years had been built on mutual respect and brotherhood. They were united not just by their magic, but by a shared commitment to one another. Even after all the pain and loss, Sirius remained loyal to the memory of his friends. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when given the chance for personal revenge against Pettigrew, Sirius made the ultimate choice. Despite the years of suffering, he did not act out of vengeance. Instead, his thoughts were focused on protecting Harry. "If you die down there, you'll have destroyed the last part of your father, life that was good," he said to Harry, prioritizing his godson, safety, over his own desire for retribution. His dedication to Harry was a testament to the strength of the friendship he had once shared with James. Sirius' commitment to his friends and to what was right defined his character. Even when facing impossible odds, his sense of loyalty never wavered. Whether it was risking his life to protect Harry or keeping his promises to James and Lily, Sirius showed that true friendship was worth any sacrifice. In a world filled with betrayal and uncertainty, his loyalty stood as a symbol of the power of love and trust. Number 9. His humor and wit lightened even the darkest moments. Even in the most tense situations, Sirius Black had a unique ability to bring humor into the mix, easing the atmosphere with his wit. He wasn't just a figure of strength and bravery, he also had the charm of making people laugh when they needed it the most. One memorable moment is when he would share sarcastic exchanges with Remus Lupin. Their playful banter at Grimmauld Place helped lift the spirits of everyone around them. Whether it was teasing Lupin about his furry little problem, or making light of the most serious situations, Sirius' humor was always on point. In one particularly touching scene, Sirius and Harry shared a quiet conversation at Grimmauld Place. Harry, who had always been burdened by so much, found solace in Sirius' words. "You're just like your father," Sirius said with a grin, easing Harry's anxieties. It was this ability to be both serious and light-hearted that made Sirius so incredibly relatable. He knew how to lighten a heavy moment with the right words, offering comfort without diminishing the seriousness of the situation. Sirius' sense of humor didn't just make him more likable, it made him human. In a world filled with darkness and danger, his jokes, his sarcasm, and his playful nature were a breath of fresh air. They made him a friend, not just a mentor. "I've been meaning to tell you," Sirius quipped to Harry. "You've got a lot of your father in you, unfortunately, the hair." It wasn't just a joke, it was a bond. Through his humor, Sirius reminded everyone that no matter how grave the situation, there was always room for laughter and light. Number 10, he gave Harry hope for a better life. One of the most poignant moments in Harry Potter, life came when Sirius Black offered him the chance to live with him after his acquittal in The Prisoner of Azkaban. For Harry, who had spent his entire life with the cold and abusive Dursleys, this offer was more than just a place to stay. It was a lifeline. The idea of living with Sirius, someone who truly cared for him, filled Harry with hope for a future that had once seemed out of reach. "You'll come live with me, Harry. I'll be your guardian," Sirius said, his voice filled with sincerity. It was a promise, one that Harry desperately needed. This simple offer to live together was a dream come true for Harry, who had always longed for a family, a sense of belonging, and someone who would love him unconditionally. In the Dursleys' home, Harry had been treated like an outsider, isolated and unwanted, but with Sirius, he could finally feel like he mattered. The chance to live with someone who cared for him, who wanted him, was the very thing Harry had been missing. It gave him a sense of hope that he had never known before. Sirius didn't just offer Harry a roof over his head, he offered him the possibility of happiness and stability. For the first time, Harry felt like he had a place in the world where he wasn't just surviving but thriving. "I've got enough room for you, Harry. We'll make it work," Sirius assured him, as if offering him a new life. This wasn't just about physical shelter. It was about providing Harry with emotional support and the kind of love that would help him heal from years of neglect and loneliness. The impact of this offer went beyond just giving Harry a place to live. It gave him something even more valuable, the belief that he was loved. This newfound sense of belonging would be crucial in Harry's battle not just against Voldemort, but against his own feelings of worthlessness. It was Sirius's love and care that reminded Harry that he was worthy of happiness, and that no matter what happened, he wasn't alone in the world. That hope would sustain him through the darkest moments, shaping him into the hero he was destined to become. Number 11, he helped create the Marauder, his map. Sirius Black. His involvement in creating the Marauder as map was a testament to his ingenuity and sense of mischief. Alongside James Potter, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, Sirius played a crucial role in crafting the enchanted map that would become legendary in the wizarding world. The map, which showed the secret passages and locations of every person within Hogwarts, was a product of their shared love for adventure and their rebellious nature. Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs are proud to present the Marauder's map, the map proudly declared, capturing the essence of their friendship and their daring spirits. Sirius wasn't just a follower in the creation of the map, he was one of its masterminds. His contribution wasn't just magical, it was born of a deep need to rebel against the restrictions placed upon them by Hogwarts and the world at large. The Marauder's map was more than just a practical tool, it was a symbol of freedom. The ability to roam Hogwarts unseen, to escape from rules and regulations, was a thrill that spoke to Sirius's own inner defiance. He, along with James, created the map during their time as students, sneaking around the school and leaving their mark on its very walls. As much as the map reflected the fun and mischief of his youth, it also became a lifeline for Harry. After discovering the map in The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry used it countless times to outsmart trouble and navigate his way around Hogwarts. In moments of danger, the map was often his only guide, showing him secret routes and allowing him to find his way when others couldn't. It was Sirius's gift to Harry, and in many ways it was a symbol of his enduring love for his godson. The map allowed Harry to avoid traps, dodge surveillance, and even find hidden rooms that proved critical in his journey. In one of the most pivotal moments, Sirius's connection to the Marauder's map helped Harry escape a deadly situation. When Harry needed to find and confront Peter Pettigrew, the map was his guide. The map showing me where they are. They are in the Shrieking Shack, Harry muttered, his eyes scanning the map in a moment of realization. The map, created through Sirius, as magic and ingenuity, became a key tool in the fight against Voldemort, helping Harry and his friends navigate the dangers ahead. In this way, Sirius's mischievous past directly aided Harry in his quest, proving that even the most playful acts can have profound consequences. Number 12. His house became the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. Sirius Black's family home at 12 Grimmauld Place was a place of bitter memories. The house, a symbol of everything he had rejected in his upbringing, was filled with reminders of his harsh childhood. His parents, devoted followers of Voldemort, had raised him in a home where hate and bigotry ran deep. Yet, when the Order of the Phoenix needed a base of operations during the war, Sirius did the unthinkable. He agreed to open the doors of 12 Grimmauld Place. The decision wasn't easy for him. Sirius despised the house. He had been raised here, surrounded by portraits of his stern and unforgiving family. The black family tapestry, which displayed his disownment, was an ever-present reminder of the past he fought to escape. But when the stakes were high, When Voldemort's rise threatened everything, Sirius chose to set aside his own resentment. He understood that the fight against the dark forces was more important than any personal grudge. In that cold and gloomy house, he welcomed members of the Order. He gave them a place to meet and plan, knowing the risks involved. It wasn't just a strategic decision, it was a sacrifice. He was placing his trust in those who fought alongside him, putting his life on the line for the greater good. As he did so, he showed his true character, willing to put his own discomfort aside for the cause of justice. It was here that Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger first experienced the harshness of the war, but also the strength of the bond that held the Order together. Sirius's decision to turn his childhood home into the Order, his headquarters, spoke volumes. He was no longer the angry young man who had left his family behind. He had grown into someone who understood the power of sacrifice and unity. "We have a war to win," he said, a reminder that the past, no matter how painful, must sometimes be put behind for the sake of something much greater. His willingness to put the house, his family's legacy, at the service of the Order showed how much he had changed. It was not just an act of rebellion against his parents, but a declaration of his true loyalty. Number 13, he followed his heart, not the rules. Sirius Black stands out as one of the most compelling and multifaceted characters in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, not only because of his tragic past and complex nature, but also due to his unique relationship with rules and authority. Throughout the series, Sirius exhibits a profound disregard for the rules, choosing instead to trust his intuition and heart when making decisions. This characteristic, more than any other, defines his role as a mentor, a friend, and a figure who inspires Harry Potter to break free from the constraints of tradition and conformity. From a young age, Sirius rejected the rigid rules of his family and the prejudiced values they held. Born into the Black family, a lineage notorious for its extreme pureblood ideology, Sirius was raised to believe that blood status and rigid social hierarchies were paramount. His family adhered strictly to these ideals, with his parents, Orion and Walburga, enforcing a strict code of conduct. However, Sirius's heart and instincts led him down a different path. He chose friendship over blood purity, forging a deep bond with James Potter, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, his fellow marauders, who shared his disregard for family expectations and social norms. This early rebellion against his family, his values, foreshadowed Sirius' lifelong commitment to following his own moral compass, even if it meant defying authority. One of the clearest manifestations of Sirius, his rejection of rules, comes when he is placed in Gryffindor House at Hogwarts. Gryffindor is known for valuing bravery, loyalty, and courage, qualities that align perfectly with Sirius's nature. Unlike many of the other students who rigidly adhered to school rules, Sirius lived by his own sense of justice. This was particularly evident during his time as a marauder, when he, James, Remus, and Peter created the Marauder's Map, a magical tool that allowed them to navigate the castle undetected by the staff. While the map was, by its very nature, a violation of the rules, it symbolized Sirius's belief that sometimes breaking the rules was necessary to achieve a greater good. Sirius's actions throughout the series prove that he was not a rebel for the sake of rebellion, but rather a man who sought freedom from oppressive structures in order to live authentically. He would never follow rules simply for the sake of following them. Instead, He evaluated each situation through the lens of what felt right. This became particularly apparent when he was imprisoned in Azkaban. As a member of the Order of the Phoenix, Sirius knew the risks involved in fighting against Voldemort and his followers. Yet he did not hesitate to put his own freedom at risk to protect others. His time in Azkaban, which he endured for 12 years, further cemented his commitment to doing what he believed was morally right, even when it came at a great personal cost. Sirius's disregard for rules and his deep trust in his intuition became most evident in his relationship with Harry Potter. While many adults in Harry's life, including the likes of Dumbledore, placed emphasis on following the rules and adhering to established norms, Sirius understood that there were moments in life when doing so could lead to injustice. He recognized that Harry, much like himself, was someone who needed to forge his own path. For Sirius, the importance of following one's heart far outweighed the importance of following established rules or expectations. He was a mentor to Harry, not because of his age or experience, but because of his willingness to teach Harry that sometimes the right thing to do was not the one that followed the rules, but the one that aligned with their own sense of justice. Sirius's advice to Harry is consistent throughout the series. He encourages Harry to trust his instincts and act in the moment, even if it means stepping outside of the accepted boundaries of society. In Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius reveals his own tragic experience with being wrongfully imprisoned and laments the consequences of believing in the assumptions of others. It is clear that his own life, shaped by a series of tragic events and misunderstandings, has taught him the painful lesson that blind faith in authority figures or established norms can lead to disastrous results. In a pivotal moment during The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry learns the truth about his parents' deaths and Sirius's role in their lives, the profound impact of Sirius's belief in following his heart is revealed. Sirius, despite his own deep pain and loss, teaches Harry the importance of fighting for what is right, regardless of how the world might view it. He shows Harry that true loyalty and friendship are not found in blind obedience to societal expectations, but in the willingness to stand by those you love, even in the face of great adversity. This lesson was crucial for Harry's growth, and it was a gift from Sirius that would stay with him for the rest of his life. Sirius's influence on Harry is even more powerful because it was rooted in personal experience. He had lived a life filled with betrayal, heartache, and the loss of those he loved. Yet through it all, he never lost sight of what truly mattered, the people he cared about, and the moral compass that guided him. His willingness to trust his heart, even when the rules told him otherwise, served as a powerful reminder to Harry that it is not enough to simply follow the rules. In a world where darkness and injustice seem to prevail, Sirius embodied the idea that sometimes the most important thing was to follow one's heart, no matter the consequences. Number 14, he inspired Harry to face his fears. Sirius Black stands as one of the most compelling and complex characters in the Harry Potter series, embodying a rare mix of bravery, wisdom, and vulnerability that deeply influenced Harry. From the very beginning of their relationship, Sirius made it clear that he would be a rock for Harry, guiding him through some of the darkest and most frightening times of his life. His role as a godfather was not just ceremonial, it was foundational to Harry's development as a person. Sirius was not just a mentor, but a beacon of strength in the face of unimaginable challenges, someone who understood the weight of fear and had learned to face it head-on. Throughout the series, Sirius' approach to life, his courage, and his deep understanding of fear became a crucial part of Harry's journey toward maturity. Harry's life was shaped by the constant threat of Voldemort, but it was also marked by the shadows of his own doubts and fears. He was often unsure of his place in the world and whether he had the strength to face the evil that constantly loomed over him. These fears weren't just about physical threats. They were also about the psychological weight of responsibility, loss, and the struggle between good and evil. Sirius recognized these inner battles in Harry, and it was this recognition that made him one of the few people who truly understood Harry as he heart. Sirius's own life had been filled with betrayal, loss, and a constant fight against the darkness, but it was through these trials that he learned the importance of choosing the right path, something he passed on to Harry. One of the most profound lessons Sirius imparted to Harry was about the duality of human nature. He told Harry that, quote, was 17. This simple yet powerful statement encapsulates Sirius' philosophy and becomes one of the defining teachings he offers Harry. For a young boy who was constantly grappling with the trauma of his parents' death, the loss of innocence, and the looming threat of the Dark Lord, this message was life-changing. It was a reminder that Harry's choices mattered, that he was not defined by the circumstances of his birth or the darkness that Voldemort had cast upon his life. Harry could rise above the fear and confusion he felt and make the conscious decision to fight for what was right. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius becomes a pivotal figure in Harry's understanding of his parents' legacy. Up until this point, Harry had known about his parents through stories and the memories of others, but it was Sirius who provided him with the closest glimpse of their lives. Sirius was the one who gave Harry the truth about what happened the night his parents died, and it was through this truth that Harry was able to understand the depth of the love and sacrifice his parents had made. For Harry, this was not just about learning facts, it was about discovering the emotional core of his parents' lives and the connections that had shaped him. In Sirius, Harry found not only a protector, but a link to the past, a person who could help him make sense of his grief. Sirius's guidance wasn't limited to stories about the past. He was also present when Harry needed to confront his fears in the present. Harry's fear of the Dementors, the terrifying creatures that feed on human despair, was one of his most personal struggles. The Dementors didn't just threaten Harry physically, they had the power to bring his worst memories to life, leaving him in a paralyzing state of hopelessness. Sirius, having faced his own fears in Azkaban, knew the debilitating power of despair. Yet instead of letting Harry be overwhelmed, Sirius inspired him to confront his fear directly. It was through Sirius's encouragement and his steadfast belief in Harry that the boy learned to stand firm against the darkness inside him. The moment when Harry first successfully conjured a Patronus was a pivotal turning point, not only in his fight against the Dementors, but in his personal growth. It was Sirius's belief in him that made Harry realize that he wasn't helpless, that he had the strength to face what terrified him the most. But perhaps one of the most significant ways Sirius helped Harry face his fears was by offering him a sense of belonging and family. Throughout his life, Harry had felt isolated and alone, abandoned by the Dursleys and distanced from the magical world by his parents' deaths. In Sirius, Harry found a figure who was not only a protector but a surrogate father. The love that Sirius showed Harry was unconditional, a love that Harry had longed for but never fully experienced. It was through Sirius's unwavering support that Harry began to realize that his worth was not defined by his losses or the darkness around him. Sirius taught Harry that family wasn't just about blood. It was about loyalty, love, and the people who choose to stand by you, no matter the cost. Number 15, he always stayed true to himself. Sirius Black stands out as one of the most compelling and beloved characters in the Harry Potter series, not merely because of his complex backstory or his courageous actions, but because of the simple yet profound truth he embodies, the courage to always be himself. In a world full of expectations, masks, and societal pressures, Sirius never tried to be anyone else, and that authenticity made him a character that readers could deeply relate to. From his rebellious youth in the wizarding world to his tragic fate in the final battle, Sirius remained true to his nature, refusing to conform to anyone else's idea of who he should be. His raw honesty and unwavering integrity set him apart as a symbol of individuality and resilience, which is why he stands out as one of the most human and genuine characters in the series. From the moment we meet Sirius in Prisoner of Azkaban, it's clear that he's a man who doesn't mince words. The grim realities of his life in Azkaban Haven had dulled his sharp wit or his ability to speak his mind. Even in his first moments of freedom, when he could have easily portrayed himself as a reformed man or someone who had learned the ways of society, Sirius is unapologetically himself. He doesn't attempt to soften the truth of his situation or feign humility. In fact, his defiance against the expectations placed upon him is evident in his bold actions and words. When Harry first sees him, he's surprised by how little Sirius resembles the dangerous fugitive the world thinks him to be. Instead, Sirius appears as a man who has lived through much suffering but remains unabashedly himself. His sincerity is immediately apparent. He never pretends to be anything other than the person he is. Sirius's refusal to conform to the expectations of the world around him is even more evident when we delve into his past. As a young man, he was raised in the strict traditionalist black family, where every member was expected to uphold the family's values and traditions. From the very beginning, Sirius rejected these values. He was a Gryffindor through and through, known for his courage, boldness, and a defiant attitude that led him to distance himself from his family's pure-blood supremacy views. Even when his family turned their backs on him, Sirius didn't hesitate to stand firm in his beliefs, choosing to walk away from a legacy that didn't align with his moral compass. This decision to reject his family's expectations, to be true to his own values, even at the cost of his family, his love and approval, speaks to Sirius's strength of character. One of the most striking examples of Sirius's ability to be himself comes in his relationship with Harry. While many of the adult characters in Harry's life, such as Dumbledore and even Lupin, try to mentor Harry with wisdom or cautious advice, Sirius offers Harry something far more important: authenticity. Sirius does not try to be a perfect parental figure or a wise mentor. Instead, he offers his love and support as he is flawed and complicated. His bond with Harry is built on this foundation of honesty. When Harry is feeling lost, unsure of himself, and struggling with the weight of his past, Sirius is there not as a polished figure of authority, but as someone who has lived through the same type of darkness. He doesn't claim to have all the answers, but his willingness to share his experiences and emotions with Harry creates a bond of trust and understanding that is unshakable. Sirius' strength lies in his ability to show Harry and us as readers that it's okay not to have everything figured out. It's okay to have flaws, to have scars, and to not always be the person others expect you to be. In Order of the Phoenix, when Harry grapples with his anger and frustration, it is Sirius who recognizes and embraces these emotions. Rather than chastising Harry for his feelings, Sirius empathizes with him. This unfiltered approach to Harry's emotions is one of the reasons their connection is so powerful. It is not about being perfect or always having a solution, but about being honest and showing up for one another, even when things aren't easy. Sirius also stands out because of how he never plays to the expectations others have of him. When we first meet him in Prisoner of Azkaban, he's a man on the run trying to clear his name. Yet, even when faced with the weight of public opinion and the tragic history of his family, Sirius doesn't attempt to fit into the role of the reformed or repentant prisoner that others might expect him to be. Instead, he remains true to his rebellious spirit and raw honesty. He tells Harry and his friends that he is not a saint, that he has made mistakes in the past, but that he is still worthy of their trust and friendship. This sense of self-awareness and accountability, mixed with an unrelenting commitment to be true to who he is, adds layers to his character, making him feel more relatable and human. Even in the way he interacts with other characters, Sirius never adopts a false persona. In The Goblet of Fire, when Harry meets Sirius in the depths of Grimmauld Place, Sirius isn't a man who hides behind a facade. Instead, he's a man who has spent years in hiding and has a complicated relationship with his past. He is blunt and straightforward, both with Harry and the others, demonstrating that he doesn't feel the need to put on an act for anyone, no matter their status or opinion. This openness is refreshing, and it is one of the reasons Harry comes to rely on Sirius as a figure of stability, even if their relationship is tragically cut short. Number 16, he inspired a generation broken by war. Sirius Black is one of the most compelling characters in the Harry Potter series. His story transcends the bounds of a mere supporting character and becomes a symbol of resistance, resilience, and the indomitable will to fight for what is right, even when the odds seem insurmountable. He is a figure that resonates deeply, particularly for those who have faced personal loss and hardship. Sirius's journey throughout the series, especially his struggles during the First Wizarding War and his unjust imprisonment in Azkaban, mirrors the larger battles that many people fight within themselves. What makes Sirius such a powerful character, however, is not just his bravery or his tragic end, but how he serves as an inspiration for others, particularly for a generation lost in the throes of war. One of the most poignant aspects of Sirius's character is his ability to remain unbroken in the face of overwhelming adversity. His life was shaped by tragedy from an early age, beginning with the death of his parents and his disownment by his family due to his refusal to follow the pure-blood ideology they cherished. Unlike many of his peers who succumbed to the pressures and expectations of their upbringing, Sirius chose a different path, aligning himself with the values of equality and justice, standing against the darkness of the Dark Lord, Voldemort. This was the first of many examples of Sirius's strength, his refusal to bend to the narrow view of the world his family had instilled in him. During the First Wizarding War, Sirius's friendship with James Potter proved to be a cornerstone of his life. When Voldemort rose to power, Sirius, along with James Lily Potter and the rest of the Marauders, fought bravely as members of the Order of the Phoenix. Together they defied the forces of darkness, risking everything to protect the wizarding world. However, their world was shattered when the Potters were betrayed. The person responsible for their deaths, the person who led Voldemort to their doorstep, was none other than Sirius's best friend, Peter Pettigrew. The betrayal was not only a betrayal of trust, but a deep personal wound for Sirius. Despite knowing the risks, he had stood by his friends, believing that together they could overcome any challenge. The reality of that loss, particularly the death of James and Lily, left Sirius devastated. It was the first moment in his life that tested his faith in the battle against evil. Yet, despite the agony of losing his friends and his godson to the same war, Sirius refused to let the darkness consume him. After the death of the Potters, he was wrongly imprisoned in Azkaban for a crime he did not commit. For 12 long years, he languished in the depths of the wizarding prison, a victim of both the betrayal of his friend and the system of justice that failed him. The darkness of Azkaban, with its dementors and its crushing isolation, was meant to break him. But Sirius, even in his darkest moments, refused to yield. He clung to the memory of James, Lily, and their shared cause. While the world believed him to be a murderer, Sirius never stopped believing in the cause he had once fought for, and he never ceased to fight for the people he loved, particularly his godson, Harry. When Sirius was finally freed from Azkaban, it wasn't just a physical liberation, but a symbolic one as well. He emerged not just as a fugitive, but as a symbol of defiance. His return to the fight against Voldemort was not born from a need for vengeance, but from a need for redemption, a desire to restore the honor of his name and the memory of his friends. He joined the Reformed Order of the Phoenix, bringing with him a strength born of experience, suffering, and hope. Despite the years of isolation and despair, Sirius remained unwavering in his commitment to fight against Voldemort and the forces of evil. Sirius's presence in the Second Wizarding War was transformative, not just for Harry, but for the entire Order. He became a living testament to the idea that no matter how broken or shattered a person may be, they can still stand up, fight, and make a difference. His journey wasn't just about winning battles, but about the perseverance to continue fighting when all seems lost. His influence extended beyond his actions. It was in the way he carried himself and the way he interacted with those around him. He wasn't a man who preached of hope, but he embodied it. Through his actions and his very being, Sirius proved that one could be deeply scarred by the horrors of war and still remain a force for good. One of the most striking features of Sirius's character was his relationship with Harry. When Harry learned the truth about Sirius's innocence, he also learned the depth of the bond that connected him to his parents. Sirius was not just a mentor or a protector to Harry, he was a link to the past, a tangible connection to the people Harry had lost. The moments Harry shared with Sirius were some of the most poignant in the series, moments that showcased the emotional depth of their relationship. Sirius became a father figure to Harry, someone who could offer him guidance, protection, and love in a way that no one else could. But more than that, Sirius, his example, inspired Harry to embrace the legacy of his parents and continue the fight against Voldemort. Sirius's resilience became Harry's own. The courage that Sirius demonstrated in the face of despair was not just a lesson in bravery, but in the strength of character. Even in his final moments, Sirius showed Harry the importance of fighting for what's right, no matter the cost. His death, though tragic, was a testament to the kind of man he had become, someone who had, in the end, lived a life true to his values. Sirius's life and death also served as a reminder to the generation lost in the war that no one is beyond redemption. He showed that even those who have been broken by betrayal, loss, and the injustices of the world can find the strength to rise again. His unwavering belief in the importance of the fight for good was a guiding light for the younger generation. His willingness to face his past, despite its pain, was an example of the power of confronting one's demons. In a world torn apart by war, Sirius's survival and his eventual sacrifice became a symbol of hope for the future. Despite the seemingly endless tragedies that followed him, Sirius Black never gave up on his fight against Voldemort. His legacy was not one of defeat or bitterness, but one of strength, resilience, and unwavering belief in the cause of good. He showed that even the deepest scars could be transformed into the strongest armor, and that even in the darkest of times there is always hope for redemption. Sirius was not just a warrior in the fight against darkness, he was a beacon of light for those who had lost their way. Sirius Black in a story is not just about his role in the fight against Voldemort, but also about the resilience of the human spirit. His ability to rise above the greatest of tragedies, to fight despite the overwhelming odds, and to remain steadfast in his convictions, is what makes him one of the greatest and most inspiring characters in the Harry Potter series. He wasn't just a man who fought for victory, he fought for the soul of humanity. His life is a powerful reminder that no matter how broken we may feel, we always have the potential to rise again and fight for what is right. In a world filled with darkness, Sirius Black was a light. Even when that light was extinguished far too soon, it left an enduring legacy of hope, courage, and the reminder that we are all capable of greatness no matter the weight of our past. His story inspired not only Harry but an entire generation, showing them that no matter the pain, no matter the loss, they could always choose to fight for what is good. And that, in the end, is what made Sirius one of the best characters in the Harry Potter series. Number 17, he defended those rejected by society. Sirius Black, one of the most beloved and complex characters in the Harry Potter series, stands out as a beacon of defiance against the oppressive structures that dominate the wizarding world. Born into the wealthy but cruel Black family, Sirius was raised with a deep sense of superiority over those deemed quote, 27 by his family. Muggles, Muggleborns, and anyone with blood deemed quote, 28. Yet, despite this environment, Sirius became one of the few characters who truly understood the value of loyalty, love, and equality. What made him stand apart from others was his ability to see beyond social status, blood purity, and familial expectations, ultimately choosing to protect and support those who had been marginalized and cast aside by society. One of the key ways Sirius demonstrated this was through his friendship with Remus Lupin, a werewolf. In the wizarding world, werewolves were outcasts, feared and despised by most people. They were not given a chance to live normal lives due to the stigma that clung to their condition. Yet Sirius, unlike most of his peers, never saw Remus' werewolf status as something to be ashamed of. Instead, he valued Remus for who he was, a kind, intelligent, and brave man. It was Sirius who, along with James Potter, helped Remus during his darkest moments. They went so far as to figure out how to become animagi, turning into animals at will so they could accompany Remus during the full moon, offering him support when the transformation took place. This act of friendship, which took years of dedication and self-sacrifice, was a testament to Sirius's belief in the inherent worth of every person, regardless of the labels society placed on them. Sirius's compassion extended beyond his friends to others who were similarly rejected. When he first met Harry, the boy had been neglected and mistreated by his aunt and uncle, the Dursleys. Harry was unloved, misunderstood, and often ignored by those around him. Yet, from the moment Sirius entered Harry's life, he extended the hand of friendship and guidance. It wasn't just that Sirius saw Harry as the son of his beloved friend James. He saw Harry as a person worthy of love, respect, and care. His willingness to step into Harry's life, offer advice, and protect him, often putting himself in danger, was a powerful act of defiance against the social structures that allowed people like Harry to be overlooked. Unlike the members of his own family, his mother, who scorned him for his choices, and his brother, Regulus, who followed the family's purist ideologies, Sirius did not allow blood status to dictate his relationships. His rebellion against his family was not merely an act of rebellion for its own sake, but a profound rejection of the notions that had shaped his upbringing. Sirius, more than anyone, understood the danger of blind loyalty to tradition and family. His loyalty was to his friends and later to the ideals of justice and equality that he believed in with all his heart. Sirius' choice to fight for the Order of the Phoenix during the First Wizarding War further emphasized his refusal to conform to the societal pressures around him. The war was divided along ideological lines, with one side seeking to dominate others based on blood purity and the other fighting for freedom and equality. Sirius, who had been raised to believe in the superiority of pure-blood wizards, chose to fight alongside Muggle-borns, half-bloods, and anyone else who shared his belief in a more just and inclusive society. His actions proved that his loyalty was not tied to blood status, but to the values he believed were right. Perhaps one of the most significant examples of Sirius's courage and dedication to his beliefs came when he decided to stand up for Harry. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry learned that Sirius was not the murderer he had been led to believe, but rather an innocent man wronged by the system, he took the risk of revealing himself. Despite the danger he faced in returning to the wizarding world, having been falsely accused of murder and imprisoned for years, Sirius was willing to stand in front of Harry in an attempt to clear his name and show him that there was more to his story than he had been told. Sirius's act of protecting Harry, even at great personal cost, was a direct reflection of his deep belief in standing up for the oppressed and marginalized. His role as a godfather to Harry is another clear demonstration of his character. When Harry's parents were killed, leaving him orphaned, Sirius was not only a family member but a figure who became integral to Harry's sense of self. He stepped in where others might have turned away, offering Harry not just protection, but also a window into the world of love, loyalty, and friendship that he had long been denied. Sirius's love for Harry was unconditional. For Sirius, Harry was not just the, quote, 31, the famous son of his best friend, James. Harry was his godson, and Sirius took that responsibility seriously. Even as he faced the threat of being hunted by the Ministry of Magic, he never wavered in his commitment to Harry's safety and well-being. Yet despite all his acts of courage and kindness, Sirius was not a perfect man. He had his flaws, and his anger often got the best of him, especially when he faced the injustices in his life. His time in Azkaban had a profound effect on him, and he struggled with his emotions, particularly when it came to his sense of betrayal by his family and friends. His bitterness towards those who had wronged him, such as Severus Snape, was often evident, and he sometimes let his emotions cloud his better judgment. But even these flaws made him more relatable. His anger, rather than diminishing his character, highlighted the very real pain of being misunderstood and ostracized. Sirius' loyalty to his friends and his commitment to fighting for those who had no voice was a key reason why he was one of the best characters in the Harry Potter series. His rejection of societal norms, his willingness to defend those who others would discard, and his unwavering belief in equality were qualities that made him a true hero. He may not have been perfect, but in a world that often valued blood over character, Sirius stood as a testament to the idea that true nobility comes not from one's lineage, but from one's actions and heart. In the end, Sirius, his legacy is one of bravery, love, and acceptance. He died fighting for a cause he believed in, protecting Harry from the dangers that the world had thrown his way. Sirius Black is remembered not for his noble birth or his family name, but for his fierce protection of those he loved and his steadfast commitment to fighting for a world where everyone, regardless of their blood, could be seen for who they truly were. For all his faults and flaws, Sirius Black was one of the best characters in Harry Potter because he never compromised on the values that made him who he was. He always stood for what was right, even when it meant standing alone. Number 18, his rebellion made him truly free. Sirius Black was never meant to be a typical aristocrat. Born into the prestigious Black family, known for its deep roots in the dark wizarding world, he could have easily followed in their footsteps, embracing the elitist values of blood purity. Yet from an early age, Sirius was at odds with everything his family stood for. It wasn't just rebellion for the sake of it. It was something deeper, a profound sense of injustice that would shape the course of his life. His internal rebellion became the very essence of his identity, making him one of the most compelling and free-spirited characters in the Harry Potter series. Sirius' rejection of his family was not simply an act of teenage defiance, but a conscious decision to break away from the restrictive and oppressive environment in which he was raised. His parents, Orion and Walburga Black, held steadfastly to the belief in blood purity, fiercely upholding the values of the dark arts. The family home, 12 Grimmauld Place, was a dark and foreboding place, filled with portraits of ancestors who revered the same prejudices that Sirius despised. The pressure to conform to these beliefs was immense, yet, instead of embracing his heritage, Sirius felt the crushing weight of his family, his expectations, making the decision to sever ties with them one of the most defining moments of his life. What set Sirius apart from other characters in the series was the intensity with which he embraced freedom. This was not the reckless freedom of a young man eager to break away from tradition. It was a deliberate, principled choice. He chose to leave behind the comforts of his family as wealth and status, knowing full well the consequences. For Sirius, true freedom meant being able to live authentically without the constraints of a bloodline that defined him. He became a beacon of individuality, someone who did not conform even when the world around him demanded it. His rejection of his family's values was not simply an emotional outburst. It was a battle fought in the depths of his soul. The pressure he faced from his parents and their obsession with blood purity was suffocating. Sirius' older brother, Regulus, seemed content to follow the family's path, embracing the Death Eater ideology. This made Sirius' decision to stand apart all the more significant. He wasn't just rebelling against his family for the sake of it. He was standing up for his belief that blood purity was a lie, a poison that corrupted everything it touched. One of the key moments in Sirius' journey of self-liberation came when he made the decision to leave home at the age of 16. At this point, his relationships with his family had deteriorated beyond repair, and he was already being labeled a traitor by his own kin. It was an act of defiance, yet it was also an act of self-preservation. To stay would have meant accepting a life that he knew wasn't his own, a life bound by tradition, hate, and fear. Sirius couldn't bear that. So he left. He sought refuge with his best friend, James Potter, and the two quickly became inseparable, forming the tight-knit group that would eventually become the Marauders. It was within this group that Sirius truly began to embrace his newfound identity. James, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew were not just friends. They were allies in the truest sense of the word. Together they pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in the wizarding world. Through their pranks, their daring escapades, and their defiance of authority, the Marauders embodied the spirit of rebellion that Sirius so passionately believed in. They were a reflection of the values that Sirius held dear: loyalty, friendship, and the unwavering belief that one should never conform to an unjust system. However, Sirius' life was not just about defying his family and living for himself. His freedom, while deeply personal, also had a far-reaching impact on those around him. Sirius didn't just want to escape his past, he wanted to make a difference in the world. His decision to join the Order of the Phoenix during the First Wizarding War was another key step in his journey of self-liberation. It was here that his personal rebellion took on a larger, more profound significance. He wasn't just fighting for his own freedom anymore, he was fighting for the freedom of others. Sirius's sense of justice led him to become one of the most ardent supporters of Dumbledore's fight against Voldemort. Even when his family and former friends joined the ranks of the Death Eaters, Sirius stood firm in his convictions. He saw through the lies that Voldemort peddled, and he knew that true power wasn't found in blood purity or fear. It was found in unity, love, and standing up for what was right. This belief, this unwavering moral compass, made Sirius a natural leader, someone who inspired others to fight for freedom alongside him. His loyalty to those he loved was another key aspect of his character. Despite the sacrifices he made, Sirius never faltered in his commitment to his friends. His bond with James Potter, for example, was more than just one of friendship. It was a brotherhood. This deep connection was solidified when Sirius became Harry Potter, Godfather. For Sirius, this was not merely a formal title, but a sacred responsibility. He saw in Harry a reflection of his late friend James, and he made it his mission to protect and guide him, even from the shadows. But despite all of his efforts and sacrifices, Sirius' life was marred by tragedy. His unjust imprisonment in Azkaban, the wizarding world's most feared prison, was a direct consequence of his defiance. It was here that he spent 12 long years, falsely accused of betraying his best friend, James Potter, and contributing to the deaths of his parents. The fact that he was eventually exonerated only adds to the tragedy of his story. The fact that he spent so much time in isolation, tortured by the Dementors, yet never once lost sight of his sense of self, speaks to the strength of his spirit. The freedom that Sirius had fought so hard for was a constant theme in his life, even in the darkest moments. In Azkaban, he refused to conform to the mental and emotional breakdowns that others suffered from. Instead, he held on to the belief that he was innocent and that one day he would escape and clear his name. It was this tenacity, this refusal to be broken, that ultimately led to his escape from Azkaban. Even in his darkest hours, Sirius never gave up on his quest for freedom. When he finally emerged from Azkaban, his actions demonstrated the depth of his loyalty to the Order of the Phoenix and to Harry Potter. He was no longer a man seeking freedom only for himself. He had transformed into a man willing to risk everything for the greater good. Sirius became a symbol of what it meant to be free, not just in body, but in mind and spirit. Sirius' story is a powerful reminder that freedom is not always easy to attain, and it often comes with great personal sacrifice. However, it also shows that true freedom is worth fighting for. Through his refusal to conform, his unwavering sense of justice, and his loyalty to his friends, Sirius Black became a character who not only shaped the events of the wizarding world, but also inspired others to fight for their own freedom. It is this inner rebellion, this profound desire to live authentically, that makes Sirius one of the best and most inspiring characters in the entire Harry Potter series. His life, filled with heartache, loss, and triumph, is a testament to the power of rebellion in the face of injustice and the freedom that comes with choosing one's own path. Number 19. His strength came from will, not just magic. Sirius Black is often seen as one of the most compelling and tragic figures in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. While not the most powerful wizard, his strength lies in a force far greater than magical ability, his indomitable will. Unlike many other wizards in the magical world who rely on raw power or mastery of complex spells, Sirius exemplifies that true strength comes from inner resolve, the ability to endure, and the unyielding desire to protect those he loves. His life was marked by hardship, betrayal, and loss, yet he never wavered in his determination to fight for what was right. His unwavering commitment to his values makes him a beacon of strength in a world that often depends on power alone. Sirius was born into the Black family, one of the most notorious and pure-blood families in the wizarding world, and yet he rebelled against everything they stood for. His family's beliefs in blood purity and their affiliation with dark forces weighed heavily on him, but from an early age he showed a defiant spirit. As a young boy, he rejected the oppressive traditions of his family, setting himself apart from his parents and siblings. This was the first sign of his strength, his ability to resist the force of his family. His influence to stand up for what he believed was right and to refuse to conform to their hateful ideals. In his time at Hogwarts, Sirius found camaraderie with James Potter, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, forming the famous Marauders. The bond they shared was not just one of friendship, but of loyalty and understanding. This group of friends exemplified the kind of unwavering loyalty that Sirius held dear throughout his life. His friendships, especially with James, were built on mutual respect and trust, and it was through these relationships that Sirius, his true character, was tested. The fact that he was willing to risk everything to help his friends, even at the risk of his own life, is a testament to his strength of will. Sirius' strength became even more evident when he was falsely accused of betraying his friends and causing the deaths of Lily and James Potter. This betrayal, which was later revealed to be the work of Peter Pettigrew, sent Sirius to Azkaban, the wizarding prison, for 12 years. Azkaban was a place where prisoners were subjected to the torment of the Dementors, creatures that fed on despair and hopelessness. Many wizards broke under the strain of their imprisonment, losing their minds to the Dementors' influence. However, Sirius remained remarkably resilient. Even in such dire circumstances, he never gave up. Despite the years of torture, he never once questioned his innocence. His strength lay not in the magic he could wield, but in the unbreakable conviction that he had done no wrong. His escape from Azkaban was another demonstration of his incredible willpower. Despite the severe limitations of his circumstances and the immense magical protection surrounding the prison, Sirius found a way to break free. It was not through brute force, but through cunning and sheer determination. He used his animagus form as a dog to escape the grasp of the Dementors, showing that it was his resourcefulness and his desire for freedom that ultimately allowed him to break free from his unjust imprisonment. This moment, where he risks everything for a chance at redemption, solidifies Sirius as a character whose strength is not derived from his ability to cast powerful spells, but from his relentless will to survive and fight for the truth. Even after his escape, Sirius' life continued to be marked by hardship. He had no home to return to, as the Black family house had been abandoned and left in disrepair, and his name was still tarnished by the false accusations against him. Yet he never allowed himself to be defeated by his circumstances. Rather than retreating into bitterness or despair, Sirius chose to continue the fight. He joined the Order of the Phoenix, putting his life on the line to protect Harry and fight against Voldemort's forces. His time in hiding was not spent in a self-pitying solitude, but in actively preparing for the next battle, showing that his will to fight had never weakened. Despite everything he had been through, Sirius remained a protector. His love for Harry was one of the defining characteristics of his life. Sirius had no biological children of his own, but he treated Harry as a son. This fatherly bond was formed not out of obligation, but out of an unwavering desire to ensure that Harry was protected from the forces of darkness that had claimed so many lives, including his own parents. Sirius's actions consistently demonstrated his willingness to put Harry's safety above his own, even when it meant making difficult and dangerous choices. Sirius's time with Harry was filled with moments of tenderness and guidance, though their relationship was not without conflict. Sirius was still haunted by his past, and sometimes his decisions, such as his insistence on taking Harry along in dangerous missions, were driven by his desire to make up for the time lost in Azkaban. Nevertheless, his care for Harry remained constant. When Harry needed him most, Sirius was there, showing that his greatest strength was his ability to love and protect despite the darkness surrounding him. His loyalty to Harry, the same loyalty he showed his friends, proved that his internal strength was rooted in his connections to others and his deep sense of justice. The death of Sirius Black, a tragic event that happens in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, marks the culmination of his life struggle. His death was not just a loss to Harry, but to the entire wizarding world, as it represented the ultimate sacrifice. Despite the overwhelming odds against him, Sirius never gave up. His final moments, as he fought to protect Harry from Bellatrix Lestrange, a curse, demonstrated the depth of his courage. He died doing what he had always done, fighting for what was right and protecting those he loved. His death was a moment of great loss, but it also cemented his place as one of the greatest characters in the series, for it was his will, not his magical power, that had always made him formidable. Through Sirius, readers are reminded that strength is not always about having the most power. It is not about who can cast the most spells or who has the greatest magical lineage. True strength comes from the will to persevere, from the determination to do what is right, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Sirius's life shows that the power of the human spirit can surpass any magical ability, and that sometimes the greatest battles are fought not with wands, but with the heart. In this way, Sirius Black stands as a model of resilience and courage, a character who teaches us that strength lies not in magic, but in the will to keep fighting, no matter what. Sirius's legacy is one of unwavering loyalty, boundless love, and a relentless pursuit of justice. He may not have been the most powerful wizard, but he was one of the most courageous. His story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of will. Through his actions and his sacrifices, Sirius Black demonstrated that magic is not the only force that shapes the world. Sometimes it is the quiet strength of the heart that leaves the most lasting impact. Number 20. His death was one of the saga's most tragic moments. When Sirius Black met his untimely death in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, it was not just the loss of another character. It was the loss of the last piece of Harry Potter, connection to his parents, a devastating blow that echoed through every page of the story. It was the moment when the real weight of war hit Harry, and with it, the inevitable end of his childhood innocence. Sirius, in many ways, had served as a bridge between the past and the present for Harry, and his death marked the symbolic crossing into adulthood, where the stakes became personal, painful, and irrevocable. From the moment Sirius was introduced, it was clear that he was more than just a friend of Harry's parents. He was a figure of mystery and rebellion, someone who defied the norms of the magical world, a member of the Order of the Phoenix, an escaped convict, and a misunderstood outcast. Sirius Black was the epitome of loyalty and defiance. His reputation had been tarnished by false accusations, and for much of the series, Harry had no idea what to make of him. But as their relationship grew, so too did Harry's understanding of who Sirius really was, a flawed but deeply compassionate individual, shaped by the same forces of tragedy that had shaped Harry's own life. Sirius's role in Harry's life was uniquely significant. For Harry, who had spent the majority of his childhood in the oppressive silence of number 4 Privet Drive, Sirius represented the possibility of family, of kinship beyond the cruel aunt and uncle who had raised him. He was not just an uncle in title, he was a protector, someone who had witnessed the horrific events of Harry's past firsthand. And while Harry had never known his parents, Sirius, his presence offered him a glimpse into their world, the world of his mother and father, the world he had lost before he could ever understand it. The bond between them was forged in the crucible of loss, and it was this connection that made Sirius's death so profoundly impactful. When Sirius fell during the battle at the Department of Mysteries, the emotional impact on Harry was nothing short of earth-shattering. The moment was not just tragic for Harry personally, but for the reader as well, as it represented a significant shift in the series. Up until that point, readers had witnessed the deaths of many important characters: Cedric Diggory, the Weasley twins, brother, and many others. But none of those losses had felt as complete, as final, as the death of Sirius Black. His loss was the severing of the last link between Harry and his past, and with it, the closing of the door to the possibility of a, quote, 41 life. The moment of Sirius's death was quiet, almost hauntingly so. There was no grand speech, no final redemption, no profound last words. He simply fell through the veil in the death chamber, leaving Harry alone with nothing but the echo of his last desperate cry. That simple, abrupt moment was, in many ways, a reflection of the harshness of the world in which Harry now found himself. The death of Sirius wasn't just about the loss of a character. It was about the end of Harry's naive belief that he could somehow return to the life he might have had, the life he imagined his parents would have wanted for him. It was the turning point where Harry realized that the war wasn't just something happening in the background, something to be dealt with in the future. It was happening now, and it was going to take everything from him. It was a crushing blow, not only because of the suddenness and tragedy of the moment, but because it forced Harry to confront the stark reality of what he had been fighting for all along. Up until Sirius's death, Harry had been propelled forward by the hope that he could find answers, that he could uncover the truth about his parents and their deaths. Sirius was the one person who had known his parents, who had lived through the same dark times, and who had survived to tell the story. He was Harry's only connection to a time he could never truly know. Losing him was like losing the last living memory of his parents, the last piece of the puzzle that made up his past. Sirius's death was also the moment that forced Harry to grow up. It was the moment when the weight of his destiny, as he quote 40, truly became clear. Up until that point, Harry had been a child, thrust into a world of danger and uncertainty, but with Sirius's death, that veil of childhood innocence was finally lifted. Harry was no longer the boy who had survived a curse. He was now a young man who had to face the full brutality of a war that had claimed the lives of his loved ones. The cost of fighting the darkness was no longer an abstract concept, it was personal, and it hurt. One of the most tragic aspects of Sirius's death was that Harry was never able to fully process his grief. He had so many questions left unanswered, so many feelings left unsaid. Throughout the series, Harry's relationship with Sirius was fraught with tension and longing. Sirius was a surrogate father to him, but Harry's own insecurities often led him to doubt the strength of their bond. And now, with Sirius gone, Harry was left with a sense of profound loss that could never be fully understood or resolved. The echoes of Sirius's death would reverberate throughout the rest of Harry's journey, shaping his actions and decisions in ways he could never have anticipated. There is a haunting irony in the way Sirius's death came about. He was killed not by the forces of Voldemort directly, but by the chaos and confusion of the battle at the Department of Mysteries. It wasn't a climactic final confrontation, but rather a senseless moment of violence in the midst of a larger struggle. This randomness, this lack of closure, was a fitting reflection of the harshness of the world in which Harry lived. There was no grand villain to face, no grand triumph to be had, just the quiet, inevitable reality of loss. In this way, Sirius's death also highlighted the broader theme of the series, that the world of Harry Potter was not one of simple dichotomies, but one in which the line between good and evil was often blurred, and where the cost of fighting the darkness was a heavy one. Sirius Black's death, ultimately, was not just a loss for Harry, it was a loss for the reader as well. In many ways, Sirius represented the last glimmer of hope in a world darkened by war. He was the last person who could remind Harry of the goodness that had existed in the world before Voldemort's rise to power. His death, therefore, was a loss not just of a character but of an ideal. It was the loss of hope and the beginning of the realization that things could never go back to the way they once were. The true tragedy of Sirius's death lay not in the fact that he was gone, but in the way his death signified the end of a chapter in Harry's life. It marked the point where Harry, no longer a child, had to confront the brutal reality of the world around him. The loss of Sirius was a turning point in the series. The moment when Harry realized that he would have to face the darkness alone, without the comfort of his parents, without the protection of those who had known them, and without the naive belief that he could somehow escape the consequences of the war. It was, in many ways, the moment when Harry truly became a part of the world he had been fighting against all along. Sirius Black's death, therefore, was not just a tragic event in the Harry Potter series. It was a crucial turning point marking the end of Harry's childhood and the beginning of his journey into a world that was far darker and more complex than he could have ever imagined. Number 21. He rejected power for the sake of principles. Sirius Black stands out as one of the most compelling and complex characters in the Harry Potter series. His journey represents the struggle between conformity and individuality, power and principles, freedom and control. A man of great potential, Sirius could have easily risen to a prominent position in the Ministry of Magic, utilizing his noble bloodline and the influence of his powerful family. Yet instead of following the traditional path that many expected of him, he chose the road less traveled, one that required immense personal sacrifice and unwavering integrity. He refused to allow the expectations of his aristocratic family or the manipulations of society to define his life. Instead, he built his life around values of honesty, freedom, and loyalty. Born into the ancient and prestigious House of Black, Sirius was expected to uphold the ideals of his family, which were steeped in pure blood supremacy and support for dark magic. His mother, Walburga Black, and the rest of the Black family held tight to their belief in the superiority of pure-blood wizards, and they viewed anyone who did not adhere to these values as inferior. Sirius, however, was never one to conform to such ideals. Even as a child, he rebelled against the cruelty and bigotry that surrounded him. His refusal to follow the family's expectations was the first indication that he was destined for a different path, one that would not only shape his own life, but also influence the lives of others. Sirius' resistance to his family, as values, was evident from an early age, particularly in his relationship with his brother, Regulus Black. Regulus, unlike Sirius, embraced the ideals of the family, becoming a loyal follower of Lord Voldemort. In contrast, Sirius distanced himself from everything that his family stood for. This caused a rift between the brothers, a rift that would only grow wider as their paths diverged. Regulus became a Death Eater, serving Voldemort with unwavering loyalty, while Sirius chose to fight against the darkness, even though it meant rejecting his family and its expectations. At Hogwarts, Sirius found camaraderie and support among his friends James Potter, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew. Their bond was built on shared ideals and a mutual desire to fight for what was right. It was at Hogwarts that Sirius found the freedom to be himself, free from the oppressive expectations of his family. The Marauders, as they became known, forged their own paths using their talents and skills to outwit authority and challenge the status quo. Sirius was not interested in power for its own sake, but in using his abilities for good. His friendship with James, in particular, shaped his views on loyalty, honor, and selflessness. One of the defining moments in Sirius' life was his decision to stand up against the Ministry of Magic and the greater wizarding world during the First Wizarding War. While many wizards in the Ministry remained blind to the threat posed by Voldemort and his followers, Sirius chose to fight back. He joined the Order of the Phoenix, an underground group dedicated to resisting Voldemort and his Death Eaters. It was here that Sirius truly demonstrated his willingness to sacrifice everything for the greater good. He did not seek personal gain or recognition, but was driven by a sense of duty to protect the world he loved from the growing darkness. Sirius' commitment to his principles came with immense personal cost. After Voldemort's rise to power, he was wrongfully imprisoned in Azkaban for a crime he did not commit. The betrayal of his best friend, Peter Pettigrew, led to his unjust imprisonment, and Sirius spent years in isolation, separated from the world he had fought to protect. Despite the horror of his confinement, Sirius never wavered in his belief that he had chosen the right path. He could have easily given in to despair or anger, but instead he held on to his values, finding strength in his memories of his friends and the belief that truth would one day come to light. Sirius' return to the wizarding world after his escape from Azkaban marked a pivotal moment in the series. He was a broken man, haunted by the years of suffering and betrayal, but his resolve remained unshaken. Unlike many others who might have sought revenge or power in the wake of such an ordeal, Sirius remained focused on his ultimate goal, the defeat of Voldemort and the protection of Harry Potter. He was not interested in climbing the social ladder or seeking accolades. He was driven by a singular desire to do what was right, no matter the cost. The essence of Sirius, a character, is perhaps best captured in his relationship with Harry Potter. As Harry's godfather, Sirius took on the responsibility of being a guiding force in his life, offering him the love and support that Harry had been denied by his own family. Sirius knew the pain of growing up in a family that valued blood over character, and he was determined to provide Harry with a different kind of family, one based on love, loyalty, and mutual respect. Despite the danger he faced, Sirius chose to stand by Harry, even when it meant risking his life. He understood that the most important thing he could offer Harry was not power or influence, but the truth of who he was and the integrity of his actions. Sirius' decision to remain true to his principles, even in the face of adversity, was not without its consequences. His life was filled with personal sacrifices, from his estrangement from his family to his years of imprisonment in Azkaban. But Sirius never regretted his choices. He knew that the price of power was often a loss of self, and he was unwilling to pay that price. His refusal to conform to the expectations of the wizarding world was a testament to his strength of character and his unwavering commitment to doing what was right, no matter the personal cost. Perhaps the most telling aspect of Sirius' character is his understanding of what it means to be free. For many wizards, freedom is a luxury that comes with power or influence. But for Sirius, freedom was something more profound. It was the ability to live according to one's own principles without being swayed by the pressures of society. He chose the path of truth over comfort, and in doing so he became one of the most admirable and respected characters in the series. In the end, Sirius Black, as life was a testament to the power of integrity. He chose to live according to his values, even when it meant rejecting the trappings of power and status that so many others sought. He never compromised on what he believed was right, even when it came at great personal cost. His legacy is one of courage, loyalty, and an unwavering commitment to the truth. Sirius Black may not have achieved the political power or social status that others might have desired, but he left behind a legacy that was far more important, the example of a man who chose principle over power, and in doing so became one of the true heroes of the wizarding world. Number 22, he never betrayed his younger self. Sirius Black, one of the most beloved characters in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, stands out not just for his tragic end, but for the unwavering consistency of his character across time. He is in many ways the epitome of an adult who refuses to lose the essence of his youthful ideals. While many of his contemporaries, including other adult figures in the wizarding world, undergo dramatic transformations, growing cynical or abandoning their principles, Sirius remains a symbol of the fierce, idealistic youth he once was. Even as an adult, he never betrayed the fiery spirit of his younger self, and this loyalty to his past, to his beliefs, and to his friends makes him one of the most compelling characters in the series. Sirius' refusal to betray his youthful ideals is a striking contrast to the paths followed by other adult characters such as Severus Snape, who, despite his early promise, allows bitterness to shape his actions, or even James Potter, whose own youthful bravado could at times overshadow his sense of responsibility. Yet Sirius does not surrender to the hardships of life. He doesn't grow bitter or hardened by his time in Azkaban. Instead, he clings to the traits that defined him as a young man, his rebellious nature, his loyalty to his friends, and his dedication to justice. These qualities, which first made him a marauder at Hogwarts, are not dulled by the years. They are refined and strengthened, making him a figure of hope for Harry Potter and a symbol of resistance against the oppressive forces in the wizarding world. In many ways, Sirius represents the voice of the past that continues to speak to the present. His memories of his youth are not tainted by the cynicism of adulthood. As a member of the Marauders, he was never a coward, always willing to stand up for what was right, even when it meant defying the norms of his family, who were staunch supporters of the Dark Lord. From his time at Hogwarts, Sirius exemplified the qualities of bravery and loyalty. These values continued to guide him even as the weight of adulthood came crashing down on him. The trauma he experienced in Azkaban, coupled with the loss of his friends, only further reinforced his commitment to his beliefs. Throughout the series, Sirius serves as a reminder that the ideals of youth are not inherently naive, nor should they be discarded as one matures. His refusal to abandon the idealism of his younger self becomes a beacon for Harry, a constant reminder that even in the darkest of times, one does not have to give up the fight for justice and equality. This is particularly evident when Harry first meets Sirius in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, where Sirius is not the bitter, vengeful figure one might expect after his years in prison, but rather a man who still holds on to the ideals of love and loyalty that shaped his youth. Despite the years of suffering and hardship he endures, Sirius's character remains anchored in his past. His love for his friends, especially James Potter, is unwavering, and his loyalty to Harry is born from the same values he held as a young man. This loyalty is perhaps most evident when he risks his life to rescue Harry from the clutches of the Death Eaters, a moment in which his courage and devotion to his friends shine through, much as they did during his school days. Sirius's willingness to put himself in danger for Harry is a powerful reflection of the unchanging nature of his character, his sense of responsibility, and his commitment to those he loves, despite the toll life has taken on him. Sirius's relationship with Harry is a unique one, built on mutual respect and a shared sense of loss. Harry, who never had the chance to know his parents, finds in Sirius a surrogate father, someone who not only shares his bloodline, but also embodies the ideals of loyalty, bravery, and justice. In many ways, Sirius becomes a mentor to Harry, guiding him not only through the physical challenges of the war against Voldemort, but also through the emotional turmoil that comes with growing up. Sirius does not ask Harry to abandon his youth, to abandon the courage and idealism that define him. Instead, he nurtures it, encouraging Harry to stay true to himself, to resist the pull of bitterness, even when it would be easier to give in. Even in his darkest moments, when he is forced to hide from the Ministry of Magic, or when he faces the weight of the truth about his family, Sirius's essence remains intact. He does not succumb to the oppressive forces around him. Instead, he fights against them, even at great personal cost. His insistence on maintaining his ideals in the face of adversity speaks volumes about his character. He does not give in to the expectations of others, whether it be the ministry or his own family, and refuses to become the bitter, cynical man that many people expect him to be. Sirius's determination to hold on to his principles, to be the same man he was when he was young, makes him a rare example of an adult who remains true to his core values, even as the world around him changes. His time in Azkaban, though traumatic, does not break him. Unlike many other prisoners who are twisted by their years of imprisonment, Sirius retains his humanity and his ideals. It is this unyielding spirit that makes his character so compelling, as it speaks to the power of personal conviction and the strength of will. Even when faced with overwhelming odds, Sirius refuses to compromise on what he believes is right. This is a quality that makes him stand apart from other adult characters who may have allowed the hardships of life to change them. Sirius, instead, holds fast to the very qualities that made him a hero in the first place: his courage, his loyalty, and his sense of justice. When Harry confronts Sirius in Prisoner of Azkaban, he sees not just a man who was wrongly imprisoned, but a reflection of the young man he could have become. Sirius is not a bitter figure of vengeance. He is a man who still possesses the youthful fire that first defined him. Even after everything he has been through, he retains his sense of humor, his courage, and his unwavering sense of right and wrong. This is what makes Sirius such a powerful figure for Harry, a mentor, a guide, and a symbol of what it means to stay true to oneself no matter the circumstances. Sirius Black in many ways represents the ideal that even in adulthood it is possible to retain the core values that defined one's youth. He is the embodiment of a character who refuses to let life, his hardships, rob him of his soul. While others may become disillusioned or jaded, Sirius' unwavering commitment to his friends, his family, and his cause makes him one of the most enduring and inspiring characters in the Harry Potter series. His refusal to betray the ideals of his youth is a rare and beautiful thing, and it is this quality that ultimately cements his place as one of the best and most beloved characters in the series. Number 23, his animagus form symbolized his soul. Sirius Black's animagus form as a massive black dog is one of the most symbolic and deeply telling elements of his character in the Harry Potter series. When J.K. Rowling introduces Sirius, he is a figure surrounded by mystery and controversy. Once known as the most notorious prisoner in Azkaban, he is presumed to be a dangerous and malevolent individual by many. However, as the narrative unfolds, we begin to understand that his animagus form reveals much more about his nature than anyone could have imagined. A dog, typically viewed as a symbol of loyalty, protection, and companionship, mirrors Sirius, our deepest qualities: his unyielding loyalty to his friends, his willingness to fight for what, right, and his capacity for sacrifice. In this way, his transformation into a black dog encapsulates not only his identity as a protector, but also his essence as a man marked by tragedy and betrayal. In the wizarding world, an animagus is a witch or wizard who could transform into an animal at will, and Sirius' transformation into a dog is particularly poignant. While animals like lions and eagles symbolize power and nobility, the dog holds a unique position in human culture. It is often seen as the ultimate companion, a faithful friend who will stick by you through thick and thin. This resonates deeply with Sirius, whose life has been defined by the relationships he forms, particularly with James Potter, Lily Potter, and Harry. His dog form, in its very nature, symbolizes a character whose loyalty and devotion transcend simple companionship, making him an ideal symbol of friendship and sacrifice. The black dog, in particular, carries a certain menacing weight. In many cultures, dogs, especially black ones, are associated with death, the unknown, and even the supernatural. In Sirius' case, this dual symbolism works brilliantly. His dog form is indeed threatening to his enemies, particularly when he, seen lurking in the shadows as a large, intimidating figure. This is seen during his first appearance in The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry and his friends first encounter the mysterious black dog in the streets of London. The dog seems to appear out of nowhere, its presence overwhelming and ominous. At first, Harry doesn't know that the dog is Sirius, and the association with death and danger feels heavy. Yet as the story unfolds, the true nature of Sirius' black dog becomes clear. Sirius's transformation into a black dog is a reflection of his complex history. He was a member of the noble House of Black, a family notorious for its dark magic and their support of Voldemort. Yet Sirius rejected this heritage, distancing himself from his bloodline and choosing to fight for the opposite side. This makes his dog form even more significant. The dog symbolizes loyalty, yes, but it also symbolizes independence and defiance. Just as a dog follows its owner but is also capable of standing on its own, Sirius is fiercely loyal to his friends and to the fight against evil. Yet he is equally resolute in his rejection of his own family twisted values. His dog form acts as a reminder of the struggle within himself, torn between the expectations of his bloodline and his personal moral compass. In many ways, Sirius's dog form also reflects the burdens he carries, most notably his wrongful imprisonment in Azkaban. When Sirius is arrested for the betrayal of the Potters, he is sentenced to a lifetime of torment in the wizarding prison. Azkaban is notorious for its use of Dementors, creatures that feed on despair, and it is during his time there that Sirius becomes a living shadow of his former self. However, as a dog, he is able to escape this imprisonment. His animagus form allows him to slip past the barriers of the wizarding world, much like a dog slipping out of the confines of a leash or a cage. This power to escape, to shed the skin of a prisoner, mirrors his unbreakable spirit and resilience, even when all hope seems lost. It is also important to note that Sirius, his dog form, serves as a symbol of his protective nature, particularly when it comes to Harry. When Harry first meets Sirius, he sees a man who is wild, untamed, and haunted by his past. But as Sirius becomes more involved in Harry's life, especially after revealing the truth about Peter Pettigrew, the dog metaphor takes on a deeper, more personal meaning. Sirius becomes a guardian, not just to Harry, but to those he loves. This transformation is seen in his protective instincts, especially when it comes to Harry's safety. In his dog form, Sirius is not just a symbol of death, but of defense, a creature that stands between its loved ones and danger. His dog form also echoes the fundamental theme of sacrifice in the series. Dogs are often depicted as loyal to the point of self-sacrifice, willing to lay down their lives for their owners. Sirius embodies this trait throughout the series, particularly when he steps into the line of fire for Harry. In the Order of the Phoenix, Sirius risks his life to help Harry and his friends, even though he knows that the Death Eaters are hunting him. His willingness to lay down his life for his friends and for Harry, safety is a central part of his character. Just as a dog would throw itself into danger to protect its owner, Sirius does the same. He sacrifices his own safety and ultimately his life for the sake of others. One of the most poignant moments that underscores Sirius, its sacrifice occurs in the Order of the Phoenix during the Battle of the Department of Mysteries. When Harry is confronted by Bellatrix Lestrange, Sirius steps in front of him, willing to face the peril of the battle for Harry's sake. In the end, Sirius pays the ultimate price. He dies at the hands of Bellatrix, falling through the veil in the Department of Mysteries. His death is a tragic moment in the series, as it shows just how far Sirius was willing to go for his friends and for Harry. In this way, Sirius' dog form isn't just a symbol of loyalty, but also of the willingness to make the greatest sacrifice, laying down one as life for those you love. Sirius's loyalty and sacrifice are also exemplified by his actions toward Harry, our parents, James and Lily Potter. Sirius is often described as Harry, as godfather, but his role goes far beyond that. Sirius is the one who steps up to care for Harry after the deaths of James and Lily, even though he is forced to live in hiding. He becomes the guardian who, despite his own pain and losses, offers Harry the love and protection he desperately needs. The story of Sirius and his dog form is not just one of rebellion and sacrifice, it is also one of redemption. As a young man, Sirius was reckless, and his rebellious nature led to his wrongful imprisonment. But as he matures, he transforms into a figure of unwavering loyalty and honor, a true friend and protector who would go to any lengths to shield those he loves. Even in his final moments, Sirius remains true to his form. As he faces the certainty of death, he still fights to protect Harry, refusing to abandon him or his friends, even though it costs him everything. In this sense, Sirius' dog form, symbolic of both loyalty and the inevitability of death, mirrors his journey. He is a character defined by both his tragic flaws and his noble virtues, a man who gave everything for the people he cared about. Sirius' black dog form is also a reflection of the complexity of his relationships. He is not just a loyal friend and protector to Harry, he is also a symbol of the family he left behind. The black dog is not only associated with loyalty, but with the darker sides of life, the suffering, betrayal, and loss that Sirius experienced at the hands of his own family. As a member of the Black family, Sirius was trapped in a house full of dark magic, hatred, and prejudice. His escape, his defiance, and his eventual rejection of his family's ideals are encapsulated in his animagus form. The dog represents both his bond with those he loves and his rejection of the toxic environment in which he was raised. The symbolism of Sirius' dog form is deeply embedded in the narrative of the Harry Potter series. It is not simply an animal shape he takes, it is the outward manifestation of his inner strength, his loyalty, and his capacity for love and sacrifice. His transformation into a dog represents the complexity of his character, a fierce protector, a symbol of death, and a tragic hero who would give everything for those he loved. In the end, Sirius' dog form becomes a lasting symbol of his essence, his unwavering loyalty to his friends, his willingness to protect Harry, and his ultimate sacrifice for the greater good. Number 24, he defended a house that hated him. The Black family home was a place filled with bitterness and disdain, where the walls seemed to echo with the oppressive weight of hatred. The portraits that adorned the walls were no ordinary art. They were reminders of the family's bloodline, which carried a legacy of cruelty, bigotry, and a long-standing allegiance to dark forces. The house on Grimmauld Place, which once served as the heart of the Black family, became a prison for Sirius Black, a man who, by every means, should have had no place in this house. Yet when he returned, he faced something far more daunting than the grim architecture or the cold, haunting whispers of his past. He faced a battle for his own redemption. Sirius had run away from home as a teenager, rejecting everything his family stood for. He had defied their twisted beliefs and sought refuge in the world beyond, taking solace in the camaraderie of friends like James Potter. The Black family was notorious for its support of Voldemort, and young Sirius felt the full brunt of their expectations to follow in their footsteps. His parents, Orion and Walburga Black, considered him a traitor, a black mark on their pure-blood lineage. They exiled him from the family, and for years he carried the weight of that rejection. But returning to Grimmauld Place, a place he had once loathed, marked the beginning of a new phase of his life, one that would see him face the very demons he had spent years running from. The house was not just a physical space for Sirius, it was a symbol of everything he had fought against. The sight of his mother, his portrait, with its cruel sneer and harsh words, seemed like a haunting spectre, a constant reminder of the childhood he had left behind. But rather than shrink from it, Sirius chose to confront it. The house, which had been abandoned by most of his family, became the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix, a group that fought against the very forces his family had once supported. Sirius, now an adult with a clear sense of justice, recognized that Grimmauld Place could serve as a sanctuary for those who needed it most. Despite the deep scars the house had left on him, he understood that it could become a powerful symbol of resistance. Here, in this place of hate, Sirius could fight for the future, not just of the wizarding world, but for the values that had been stripped from him in his youth. In choosing to stay in Grimmauld Place, Sirius was not just revisiting his past, he was taking responsibility for it. The portraits of his family members, which once served as constant reminders of his betrayal, were now an ever-present challenge he had to face. These images, imbued with the venom of their hateful rhetoric, were not easily silenced. His mother's voice, echoing through the halls, filled him with disgust, but it also gave him the strength to stand firm. He was determined to create something good out of this oppressive legacy, to transform the Black family home into a place of hope, not fear. The room that had once been the heart of the Black family's oppressive tradition now served as a sanctuary for those who fought to bring about a better world. Sirius understood that the battle for the future was not just about defeating Voldemort, it was also about breaking the chains of the past, chains that had bound him for so long. In that house, he would not only protect others, but he would also protect himself from the shadows of his own upbringing. He had lived through the torment of being forced to accept a false legacy, and now he was taking back control of his narrative. The house, despite its history, became a fortress for the resistance. It was where Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger, and countless other members of the Order would gather to plan their next moves against Voldemort and his followers. Here, in the midst of the walls that once confined him, Sirius found purpose. His past was still a heavy weight on his shoulders, but he chose to carry it, knowing that this was the only way he could truly move forward. By staying in Grimmauld Place, he was not just surviving his past, he was overcoming it. Sirius's decision to return to Grimmauld Place was not one of mere necessity. It was a choice to stand firm in the face of adversity, to confront the legacy of his parents, and to reshape it into something of his own making. The house, once a prison, became a symbol of resistance and defiance against the forces that had once controlled his life. He knew the dangers of facing his past head-on, how it could break him, how it could pull him back into the darkness of his childhood, but he also knew that in doing so he could protect the future. One of the most poignant moments in his journey was his relationship with Kreacher, the Black family house elf. Kreacher, who had served the Black family for generations, was a living embodiment of the house, the cruel legacy. At first, Kreacher resented Sirius's presence, seeing him as a traitor to the family he had sworn to serve. But over time, as Sirius showed kindness and offered Creature a sense of belonging within the Order, their relationship began to evolve. Sirius's treatment of Creature, unlike his parents', was one of empathy, and it reflected his broader fight to redefine what his family name meant. He wanted to teach Creature that loyalty did not have to mean blind adherence to the darkness of the past, but rather a commitment to something greater. Sirius's fight with his past was also reflected in his relationships with others. His bond with Harry was, in many ways, rooted in the love and loyalty Sirius had for the child of his best friend, James Potter. But it was also shaped by the idea that Harry could avoid the same mistakes Sirius had made. He wanted Harry to be free from the weight of expectations, just as he had longed to be. In helping Harry understand the truth about his family, Sirius became more than just a protector. He became a mentor who, despite his own flaws, showed Harry the power of breaking free from the chains of legacy. Grimmauld Place, with all its darkness and history, became a symbol of Sirius's own personal transformation. It was where he had to reconcile his past with the person he had become. The house was a constant reminder of what he had endured, but it was also a place where he could take a stand for what was right. In choosing to stay and fight, Sirius Black proved that sometimes the hardest battles are not fought against external enemies, but against the ghosts of our own histories. He chose to stay in the house where he was once hated, to protect others, and in doing so, to protect himself from being consumed by the hate that had once ruled his life. As the battle against Voldemort intensified, Sirius found himself once again at the forefront of the fight for the future. His time in Grimmauld Place had not been easy, but it had been necessary. By confronting his past, by facing the dark legacy of his family, he had not only protected others, but had also redeemed himself. He had taken the worst parts of his history, the hatred, the cruelty, the betrayal, and had turned them into fuel for a greater cause. Sirius Black was no longer the man who had fled his past. He had become the man who was willing to stand in the place where his torment began, in order to create something better for those who followed him. The house that had once been the site of so much pain had, in the end, become a beacon of hope and resistance. Sirius's decision to stay was not just about protecting Harry or the members of the Order. It was about his own personal journey of reclaiming his identity, of facing the past and not allowing it to define him. In the end, Sirius Black's choice to fight in the very place where he had been broken was not just an act of courage, it was an act of defiance, a declaration that the past would no longer have a hold over him. Number 25. He was ready to become a father to a child he barely knew. Sirius Black's role in the Harry Potter series transcends that of a mere side character or supporting role. He stands as one of the most beloved figures, not only because of his complex and rebellious nature, but also because of the depth of his emotional commitment to Harry. Among the many layers of his character, perhaps the most touching is his readiness to take on the mantle of fatherhood, despite having no experience with children, no clear preparation, and no promises of a perfect future. This remarkable decision to care for a child he barely knew makes Sirius not just a protector, but a symbol of love and sacrifice that is not often explored in the wizarding world. When James and Lily Potter were killed by Voldemort, their son Harry was left an orphan, vulnerable and alone in a world that had already taken so much from him. But in the wake of their deaths, one person's reaction stood out above all others. Sirius Black, Harry's godfather, had lost his closest friends, but he never lost his sense of responsibility. He could have sought revenge on those who had caused the deaths of his best friends, or he could have gone into hiding, avoiding the dangers that lurked in the world. But instead his first instinct was to think of Harry and his welfare. Even before knowing where Harry was or what the immediate future would hold, Sirius considered the child's needs, his safety, and his potential future. In the chaotic aftermath of the Potter's murder, there was a moment of decision for Sirius. He had no reason to believe that Harry was still alive when he first learned of the deaths. It was not until later, when he realized that the child had been placed with the Dursleys, that Sirius fully grasped the weight of the responsibility he could shoulder. The emotional burden he carried from losing his best friends was immense, but it was dwarfed by his desire to protect and raise Harry. Even in the face of grief, betrayal, and his own overwhelming sense of loss, Sirius did not hesitate to put the child's well-being first. This choice marked a profound difference between Sirius and many other characters in the series, who, despite being capable and powerful, could not offer the same level of emotional investment and compassion. Sirius' offer to take Harry in was not driven by a sense of obligation or formality. It was not a calculated decision to fulfill some predetermined duty. Rather, it was a moment of pure instinct and deep love. In a time when the wizarding world was torn apart by the fear of Voldemort's return, Sirius was ready to act without waiting for permission or guidance. He simply wanted to protect Harry, to offer the child the love he believed Harry deserved, and to be the father figure that James and Lily would have wanted him to be. Sirius, who had lost everything, was willing to give everything he had for Harry. The idea of becoming a father figure for a child he had barely met might have been daunting for some, but not for Sirius. He was driven by something much more powerful than fear or uncertainty. He was driven by the memory of his friends and the desire to fulfill the role they had left open. His willingness to become Harry, guardian, reveals an aspect of Sirius that is often overlooked: the depth of his emotional capacity. The world had been cruel to him. He had been wrongfully imprisoned in Azkaban, betrayed by his closest friend, and alienated from the family he once loved. But despite all of this, his heart was still full of love, not just for the people he had lost, but for the child who was now left without parents. In this way, Sirius' role in Harry's life goes beyond that of a godfather. He represents the idea of a parent who is not bound by biology, but by the strength of emotional connection. He shows us that family can be built on love and loyalty rather than on bloodlines alone. One of the most poignant moments in the series comes when Sirius finally has the opportunity to be a part of Harry's life. After years of absence, after being wrongfully imprisoned and then hunted by the Ministry of Magic, Sirius returns to Harry's life, not just as a godfather, but as a potential father figure. He is someone who Harry can turn to for comfort, guidance, and protection. But what makes this relationship so compelling is that Sirius does not force himself into the role. He never tries to replace the parents Harry lost. Rather, he becomes someone Harry can look up to and rely on, someone who loves him unconditionally. This dynamic allows Harry to experience a form of familial love that he had been deprived of for so long. As the series progresses, Sirius' role in Harry's life becomes even more significant. His actions continually show that his love for Harry is not conditional. He does not expect anything from Harry in return. Despite being on the run from the law, despite being faced with constant danger, Sirius never hesitates to put Harry first, whether it is by protecting him from danger, providing him with advice, or offering him a semblance of the family he has lost. Sirius gives of himself without hesitation or complaint. This unselfish devotion is what makes him one of the most admirable characters in the series. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius' story comes to the forefront as Harry uncovers the truth about the betrayal that led to his parents' deaths. The revelation of Peter Pettigrew's treachery is not just a pivotal moment in the series, but it is also a turning point for Sirius. For so long, he had lived with the knowledge that his best friend, James, had died because of a betrayal. Now Harry's discovery of the truth gives Sirius a sense of justice that he had been denied for so long. But beyond the need for justice, there is a moment of real tenderness between Sirius and Harry. When they are finally alone together in the Shrieking Shack, Sirius doesn't just tell Harry about the past. He tells him about the love he had for James and Lily, about how deeply he cared for them, and about the responsibility he felt for Harry. This conversation is a critical moment for both characters. It allows Harry to see Sirius as more than just a godfather, but as a man who would have gladly sacrificed everything to protect him. This readiness to be a father, to step into a role that was never guaranteed or expected of him, makes Sirius one of the most valuable characters in the entire series. He is the embodiment of selfless love, not for the sake of obligation or duty, but because he truly cares for Harry. His willingness to be the father figure Harry so desperately needed, even if he had no experience, even if it meant putting his own safety at risk, makes him stand out as one of the most emotionally rich and selfless characters in the Harry Potter universe. Sirius' relationship with Harry is also remarkable because it shows the importance of choice in shaping one destiny. While Harry's parents had been the ones to choose him as their child, it was Sirius who chose to step up and be a part of his life when no one else could. In many ways, Sirius' actions mirror the themes of love and sacrifice that are woven throughout the entire series. He shows us that family is not just about who you are born to, but about who you choose to protect, who you choose to love, and who you choose to stand by no matter the cost. Ultimately, Sirius Black's willingness to take on the role of a father to Harry, even though he had no obligation to do so, adds an emotional depth to the Harry Potter series that makes his character one of the most beloved. His actions prove that love, in its purest form, can transcend blood ties and can bring meaning to even the most difficult and tragic of circumstances. Through Sirius, we learn that being a parent is not just about raising a child, it's about the selfless act of loving, protecting, and supporting that child, no matter the obstacles that lie ahead. This makes Sirius Black not just one of the best characters in the series, but also one of the most emotionally impactful.